from the Presidential Palace, Manila, Dateline Malacañang.
Good day, this is Dateline Malacañang, and here are the news. On the top story, Philippine President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. engages in a productive discussion with His Highness Sheikh Mohammed bin Zayed Al Nahyan, President of the United Arab Emirates or UAE, and ruler of Abu Dhabi as he embarks on a one-day official visit to the UAE on November 26. During their meeting at the Sea Palace in Al Bar, Abu Dhabi, the two leaders emphasized their dedication to strengthening bilateral ties and delivering lasting benefits to their people. Beyond forging more partnerships with the UAE, President Marcos Jr. expresses his deepest gratitude to President Al Nahyan for his country's assistance in several matters, including the arrest and turnover of a sex trafficker to the Philippine authorities and a training and support for the Philippine National Police. The chief executive also conveys his gratitude to the UAE for pardoning 143 Filipinos during this year's Eid al-Adha and for its humanitarian aid to victims of recent flooding in the Philippines. The Philippines and the UAE established diplomatic relations on August 19, 1974. The president's visit to the UAE coincides with the 50th anniversary of friendship and collaboration between the two nations. Around 700,000 Filipinos are currently working or staying in the United Arab Emirates.
I have just concluded a short but highly productive visit to the United Arab Emirates. We did this as we commemorate 50 years of very strong and friendly and rapidly progressing bilateral ties between our two countries. At this brief visit, I reaffirmed the Philippines' commitment to further strengthen our bilateral ties, progressing towards new spheres of engagement. I look forward to the implementation of several bilateral agreements in culture, energy transition, legal cooperation, artificial intelligence, a digital economy, the improvement of government activities, visa waiver for holders of diplomatic, special, and official passports, and investment cooperation. During my meeting with the UAE President, His Highness Sheikh Mohammed bin Zayed Al Nahyan, I expressed the appreciation of the Philippines for UAE's government's care and respect for the Filipino community in the UAE. In response, the UAE President commended the Filipino people for their contribution towards UAE's development. I thank Sheikh Al Nahyan for understanding that my visit had to be cut short given the need to attend to relief and reconstruction activities in communities devastated by successive typhoons. I also conveyed appreciation for the UAE's government's constant humanitarian support for victims of these natural calamities. I invited His Highness to a return visit to the Philippines in the coming months to continue our dialogue and to explore further areas of cooperation. Maraming salamat po.
Philippine President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr.
Dateline Malacañang.
The Philippines and the United Arab Emirates or UAE on Tuesday committed to deepening bilateral relations, especially in the economy and trade. In his one-day working visit to the Gulf state, Philippine President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. met with UAE President His Highness Sheikh Mohammed bin Zayed Al Nahyan and expressed the Philippine government's openness to strengthening economic ties with the UAE. President Al Nahyan, in a social media post, said he discussed with President Marcos Jr. opportunities to further deepen cooperation between the UAE and the Philippines. The two countries are currently negotiating a comprehensive economic partnership agreement, according to the Department of Trade and Industry, or DTI. During their meeting in Abu Dhabi, President Marcos also expressed his gratitude to President Al Nahyan for UAE's assistance in several matters, including the arrest and turnover of a sex trafficker to the Philippine authorities and the training and support for the Philippine National Police or PNP. The Philippine president also thanked the UAE for pardoning 143 Filipinos during this year's Eid al-Adha and for its humanitarian aid to victims of recent flooding in the Philippines. Around 1 million Filipinos are in the UAE, making it the second largest employer of Filipino expats after Saudi Arabia. The Philippines and the UAE are celebrating 50 years of diplomatic relations since establishing diplomatic ties on August 19, 1974.
Dateline Malacañang.
Mayors across the country have expressed support to Philippine President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. following the kill order of Vice President Sara Duterte, which they branded as a threat to democracy. In a manifesto, the League of Municipalities of the Philippines, or LMP, which consists of town mayors in the country, expressed their unwavering support to the president. This follows the controversial online threat of Duterte, who claimed in an expletive-laden online news conference that she has hired an assassin to kill Marcos, First Lady Liza Araneta Marcos, and House Speaker Martin Romualdez if the supposed plot to kill her were to succeed. The mayors then called for restraint and accountability amid the issue involving the second highest official of the land, and rejected any threats of violence or actions that may undermine the safety and stability of the nation. The LMP said they trust President Marcos will continue to lead with integrity and compassion, fostering an environment where democracy and progress thrive. The government is conducting a full-blown investigation over the Vice President's remarks, with the Department of Justice, or DOJ, and National Bureau of Investigation, or NBI, at the helm.
Dateline Malacañang.
In a related story, the National Bureau of Investigation, or NBI, formally asked Vice President Sara Duterte to give her side to investigators by Friday in connection with her statement that she hired an assassin to kill Philippine President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. In the subpoena signed by NBI Director Jaime Santiago and NBI Intelligence Service Director Glenn Ricarte, the Vice President was commanded to appear in the office of the Director on the 29th of November to shed light on the investigation for alleged grave threats and possible violation of the Anti-Terrorism Act of 2020. In an online briefing dawn of November 23rd, Duterte said she had already tapped an assassin to kill President Marcos, First Lady Liza Araneta Marcos, and House Speaker Martin Romualdez if she is assassinated first. Duterte said her directive to the alleged hitman she had contracted to kill the first couple and Romualdez is no joke. The Philippine Department of Justice, or DOJ, fully supports the NBI in serving the subpoena to Duterte at her office in Mandaluyong City. In a statement, the DOJ said there should be no room for interpretation when it comes to statements made by public officials. Their words must be interpreted in their plain and literal meaning to give paramount importance to their accountability as public servants. The agency added that the NBI has begun conducting manhunt operations to search for the alleged assassin or assassins hired by the Vice President and make them accountable.
Dateline Malacañang.
Meanwhile, Malacañang called on former President Rodrigo Duterte to respect the Constitution and desist from being irresponsible by insinuating a military action against the administration of Philippine President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. In a statement, Executive Secretary Lucas Bersamin said Duterte's call to the Armed Forces of the Philippines, or AFP, is inspired by a selfish motive to allow her daughter, Vice President Sara Duterte, to take over. In a late-night online press briefing Monday, the former president sought the military and police's intervention to protect the Constitution amid what he described as a fractured government. Duterte, however, stopped short of calling for a coup. According to Bersamin, Duterte should respect the Constitution, not disobey it. Bersamin, a former Chief Justice, urged the Duterte camp to follow the proper procedure and wait for the right time to be in power, even as he vowed that the Marcos administration would not shrink from its sworn duty to govern and manage the affairs of the Filipino nation according to the Constitution and the rule of law. Duterte's tirades came following the government's move to conduct an all-out investigation against his daughter, who earlier said she has contracted someone to assassinate the president if the supposed plot to kill her were to succeed.
Dateline Malacañang.
In other news, the Philippine Senate approved House Bill 10800, or the 2025 General Appropriations Bill, or GAB, which will allocate a 6.352 trillion pesos national budget for next year. With 18 affirmative votes, 0 negative, and 1 abstention, the 2025 GAB is now set to be discussed in a bicameral conference between the Senate and the House of Representatives. Senate Minority Leader Aquilino Pimentel III abstained. In her manifestation, Senator Grace Poe assured that the senators scrutinized thoroughly the Senate's version of 2025 GAB. Senator Poe said the Senate has made a commitment to the people that no one will be left behind and no one will be neglected. In an earlier statement, Senate President Francis Cheese Escudero expressed confidence that Congress can pass the 2025 GAB before it adjourns on December 20th. He said it would be approved and sent to Malacañang for the signing of President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. into law on the second week of December at the latest, or the first week of December at the earliest. Escudero also expects the bicameral conference to last for 2 weeks.
Dateline Malacañang.
Philippine Agriculture Secretary Francisco Chu Laurel said the Philippine Department of Agriculture is targeting to establish at least 260 more Kadiwa centers nationwide by mid-2025. At the launch of the first ever Kadiwa ng Pangulo, or KNP Expo at the Philippine International Convention Center in Pasay City, Chu Laurel said 41 Kadiwa centers, which sell rice at 29 pesos and 42 pesos per kilogram, have been established nationwide to date. In his speech, Chu Laurel said the combined expertise and resources of concerned government agencies have been instrumental in the success of the KNP program and its beneficiaries. The KNP, a flagship project of President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr., aims to empower farmers and fisherfolk, including the agricultural sector, and bring accessible food products to consumers. A major highlight of the expo was the unveiling of the bigger, better, and more Kadiwa ng Pangulo para sa masaganang bagong Pilipinas. The DA said the KNP has attained milestones through collaboration among government agencies and stakeholders, including the Department of Labor and Employment, Department of the Interior and Local Government, Department of Trade and Industry, Department of Social Welfare and Development, Presidential Communications Office, and Presidential Management Staff. Through the program, the DA hopes to further improve the food supply chain and achieve sales targets through the exhibition of agri-fishery products. Chu Laurel noted that the KNP provides essential logistical support to farmers by linking them to the market. Meanwhile, he said the DA is looking at improving the KNP with a food train. He, however, said the service would have a minimal fee to be shouldered by farmers, which would benefit the transporters.
Dateline Malacañang.
Still on agriculture, Philippine Department of Agriculture or DA, Secretary Francisco Chu Laurel said the decision to import an additional 8,280 metric tons or MT of small pelagic fish was made to stabilize domestic supply during closed fishing season from November to March. He said a supplementary volume of fish imports, which will be on top of the 30,000 MT imported from Vietnam and China, will also address the impact of the recent series of typhoons on the supply of fish in the market. Laurel said the import of an additional small pelagic fish was made following a meeting with the National Fisheries and Aquatic Resources Management Council or NFARMC and the DA. Meanwhile, Laurel said the country has a stable rice supply with importation expected to hit 4.5 million tons this year. On the pork supply, Laurel said there were no significant changes as African swine fever or ASF has been more or less contained and stocks of pork and even chicken remain sufficient.
Dateline Malacañang.
The Philippine Department of Social, Welfare and Development or DSWD assured the public that the assistance to individuals in crisis situation or AICS and other forms of social protection services remain accessible for people in need despite the temporary suspension of guarantee letters or GLS. In a news release, Director Edwin Morata, Assistant Director of the DSWD's Program Management Bureau or PMB and Officer in Charge OIC of the Crisis Intervention Unit, said the DSWD's central and field offices as well as satellite offices will continue to facilitate requests for other types of assistance under the AICS program such as medical, burial, funeral, food and transportation in the form of outright cash. The DSWD earlier announced that the issuance of GL will be temporarily suspended after December 13 this year and is set to resume early January next year. Morata said the suspension is just temporary and undertaken to make way for the agency's annual liquidation process and complete the payments to service providers who have already assisted beneficiaries. He said the regular clients of AICS have been informed in advance to help them cope with the temporary changes, particularly those using GLs for their maintenance medicine. On average, a GL can help agency clients purchase maintenance medicines for a 3-month intake. Morata assured the agency is committed to wrapping up the year-end auditing as soon as possible and alleviating the worries of the public. According to the DSWD, more than 6.5 million Filipinos facing difficult circumstances were provided by the DSWD, with aid amounting to 40.9 billion pesos through the AICS program in 2023. The amount of assistance released under the AICS program in 2023 represented a 98.5% utilization of the fund, worth over 41.5 billion pesos. The number of clients served under the AICS in 2023 is more than 4 times the program's annual total target of 1,691,869 beneficiaries.
Dateline Malacañang.
The Philippine Department of Social, Welfare and Development or DSWD renewed its call to prioritize implementing programs and interventions for children in conflict with the law or CICLs as the nation celebrates the 13th Juvenile Justice and Welfare Consciousness Week. DSWD Secretary Rex Gatchalian emphasized that protecting the rights and welfare of CICLs is everyone's collective responsibility. This year's theme sa Bagong Pilipinas, Bawat Bata May Pag-asa, Ligtas na Lipunan para sa Bagong Henerasyon, emphasizes the importance of providing hope to CICL and children at risk or CAR, encouraging them to dream, to thrive, and make positive changes. The JJ Week also acts as a platform to engage duty bearers and stakeholders in protecting children's rights and dignity by addressing the needs of vulnerable youth through a comprehensive approach involving the entire nation and society. The Juvenile Justice and Welfare and Attached Agency of the DSWD leads the week-long celebration for the JJ Week. This annual event occurs during the fourth week of November in recognition of National Children's Month, or NCM.
Dateline Malacañang.
Some Philippine offshore gaming operators or POGOs are now pretending to be business process outsourcing or BPO firms to continue their operations amid a declaration of Philippine President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. totally banning POGOs in the country. This was confirmed on Tuesday by Presidential Anti-Organized Crime Commission or PAOG Director Winnie Kidato to the Senate Committee on Women, Children, Family Relations, and Gender Equality during its last public hearing on illegal activities linked to POGOs. Senator Risa Hontiveros agreed with the PAOC officials, saying protecting the good image of BPOs is very important. Kidato further reported that from thousands of individuals employed in a single POGO before, guerrilla POGOs have now broken into small groups of 10 to 20 individuals per operation. Kidato noted that because of the active campaign of the PAOC in Luzon, most of the guerrilla POGOs have begun operating in the Visayas and Mindanao. He said the PAOC is set to meet again with the concerned government agencies to discuss a tighter implementation of Executive Order 74 and how to go after guerrilla POGOs. Marcos signed EO 74 on November 4, imposing an immediate ban on offshore and internet gaming operations in the country.
Dateline Malacañang.
Philippine Department of Migrant Workers or DMW said Filipino seafarers would benefit from the local expansion of 2 large manning agencies in the country, providing more jobs. The DMW said the MSC Crewing Services Philippines and Philippine Transmarine Carriers Incorporated or PTC opened new offices in Asiana, Parañaque City this month. Migrant Workers Secretary Hans Leo Kakdak said MSC means more seafarers and cruise ship workers, which also means more work, more coordination, more possibilities of collaboration, and renewed friendship. The new MSC office will serve as a local hub for talent scouting, training, and career development for Filipino maritime workers. MSC is a maritime agency engaged in the recruitment of shipboard personnel and other related maritime activities. MSC Cruises has outlined ambitious plans to create 50,000 new crew member positions worldwide in the coming years, said its Chief Operating Officer Elia Conju. He said that of this number, approximately 10,000 will be allocated to Filipino seafarers. The MSC employed around 9,000 Filipinos for over 5 years, with 85% of those recruited still in the company. Meanwhile, PTC is a global maritime company engaged in ship and crew management, education and training, logistics, and outsourcing solutions. PTC Group Chief Executive Officer Gerardo Borromeo reaffirmed the company's commitment to providing career paths for Filipino seafarers and strengthening its partnership with the Philippine government. Kakdak meanwhile assured MSC and PTC officials that the government would promptly address issues concerning the Magna Carta for seafarers that may affect the cruise sector.
Dateline Malacañang.
And finally, for Dateline Malacañang, the Armed Forces of the Philippines, or AFP, said its plan to defeat the communist insurgents is well within target. In a Bagong Pilipinas Ngayon interview, AFP spokesperson Colonel Francel Margaret Padilla said they are waiting for the declaration of a weakened guerrilla front into a cleared one. Once achieved, Padilla said the AFP can focus on its territorial defense missions. In a command conference in January this year, Philippine President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. ordered the AFP to defeat the country's insurgency problem once and for all. Padilla said from January 1 to November 14, a total of 2,319 communist terrorist group members and supporters were neutralized. Of this number, 2,042 surrendered to government forces, while another 140 were arrested, with 137 killed in military operations.
Dateline Malacañang.
And that is all for today's Dateline Malacañang. For Radyo Pilipinas World Service, this has been Bea Gaza-de Guzman.
From the Presidential Palace, Manila, Dateline Malacañang.